Hi guys, it's Team Rhino here. I'm Caboozles, and this is Rainbow Kuribro. Uh,
Hello.
and today we're going to be talking about, my top five beginner decks. He hasn't heard any of these before, so he's going to react to them as I do, as I say them. And okay, the things I've taken into account for beginner decks, I think, is first of all they've got to help you learn the mechanics of the game. So like pendulum, Xyz, synchro, fusion, chains, like continuous traps, and MST doesn't negate shit like that. So everything. So it's got to teach you how the game works. So I've chosen like a variety of different decks. How easy they are to play. You can't have something insane like Ritual Beasts, where you're just gonna give up on life after recording it. How competitive they are. They can't be like shit, because also if you're really really bad, then you're not gonna win very much. And price. Anything you'd like to add in terms of what you think a good beginner deck should have?
Well, you mentioned MST doesn't negate. It should have like a variety of staples in it, so you get used to knowing the general cards that
I get,
people kind
yeah,
of
I guess
always
actually
play.
that's already something against my lowest down of them, number five,
Uh,
which I'll start
oh,
with.
Also, I'd like to mention on a side note that Ritual Beasts playing to death thing nearly killed the Yu-Gi-Oh career of our beloved teammate, the Oracle.
Yeah, it really did.
It
It's
was a very close
the only
call.
thing he's had at a regional, and he won it. He actually felt ill afterwards
Yeah, that's
because of
good.
the deck. Alright, my number five is DDD, which is new, but it's the easiest to play pendulum deck that I can think of. I couldn't think of one that uses the new mechanic. But on top of that, you can also fusion summon, synchro summon, and Xyz summon in that deck. You can't synchro yet in the TCG, but you will be able to soon. But it's quite a hard to play deck, and also because all of your cards make you pay life points in the standby phase, you can kill yourself easily. But it teaches you about phases, because you have to know when the standby phase is to know when to take all of that damage. Um, but I guess, have you played against that deck much? Do you know much about DDD?
I've played against it a couple of times. It is one of the weaker pendulum decks, I'd say. So that's another one of your criteria. It doesn't
It's
meet
cheap
as
as
much.
it's cheap as hell, and it has a really good Cosmo matchup.
Does it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Just
I
right
haven't
versus
like I've kind of when I've played it before, I have sort of destroyed it within a few turns. So I haven't actually seen that much of the deck.
Yeah, this is the lowest one on my list, but I needed one that teaches you the pendulum mechanic. I guess
It
pendulum.
definitely has good variety.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
what you mean with the XYZ and the
Pe-
fusions and the.
Pendulum Magicians is in there, but the thing is, your build is going to have to be much more of a budget build and much harder to actually compete with the current sort of meta Pendulum Magician builds. So that's why I didn't put that
Mhm.
one in. But yeah, I think
Oh,
we've
so
got.
you are taking budget into account for these
Yes,
as
I
well.
am. Yeah, yeah. Not like a
Okay,
super expensive, because like no one's going to begin with a super expensive deck unless they're playing on Death
true.
Row. This is for real life.
Okay.
Um, so number four, which I think you'll agree with me on this one, is Lightsworn. It's really simple to play. It's fun because it's just to drop Judgment Dragon. Just
Lightsworn was my first real deck that
yeah,
I could win any
yeah.
deals with, and it was just fantastic. I
And
love Lightsworn.
it does teach you how to play. It teaches you about it teaches you about phases. There are some staples in there like breakthrough, and I mean most people do put a few staples in the deck. It's good for
Hmm.
teaching you mechanics, and you can't really go wrong with it because
Yeah, and it's
it's one of the
like it's something you can actually win with, like even if you're not that great. So it also gives you a positive outlook in Yu-Gi-Oh, which I think is important because like I remember the first time I played Yu-Gi-Oh when I was a kid, and then I got back into it and I played a rock structure deck, and it was very slow and I was awful and I just lost all the games and it was really depressing. So
and
Lightsworn's good for.
yeah, and he was playing this. It was like kind of like Rockstun, but not quite. And we were playing Agents and Six Sams, I think, at the time. And
Yep,
yeah, you got
Six
wrecked.
Samurai destroyed me.
Yeah, so I think they're a great one for learning the game. I think you'll agree on that, don't you?
Yeah,
It's a
definitely.
shame that the Dragon Rulers got banned for them because Lightsworn Rulers was perfect for teaching you how to use the Banish Zone, managing a graveyard resources, things like that.
They were good times.
Wow. My number three is also one you will be more familiar with because I used to play it. It's Geargia because it's like it uses a lot of back row, so it teaches you about back row and all things like that. But also your XE summoning and searching, and like it's kind of resource management, but also a lot of meta decks kind of do what Geargia does, but better.
Yeah,
Like
I see
they're
that.
consistent, and that's like I don't know how to explain it kind of thing, but do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree, but I would also say that I probably prefer Lightsworn over Geargia just because Geargia is always trying to do the same thing mostly.
But I think Geargia takes more skill because
It takes more skill, but you've always got one single goal, and it doesn't let you explore your
what
options
just
as much
summoning
as
a rank 4.
summoning rank 4 and then discarding to search and summon
Yeah.
another rank 4, which is probably going to be the same one. What's its name? Gear Gigant
Yeah,
X or
yeah.
something?
No,
You just got.
there's like
I,
the rank 3 is the Gear again XG, I think.
mm,
Yeah, like
I just
there
remember
is.
you getting loads of Gear Gigant
Yeah,
X's
I
out,
know, I
and then
know.
I lost.
Yeah, there's like the rank 3 version, and there's the synchro version, Gear Karikuris, which is a bit different.
You never went into that ever.
No, I've never played that, but I've played
Uh,
against it, and it does seem pretty fun, and it adds a bit of an extra dimension to the deck, and I think it would help sort of make the deck a bit more interesting, because I guess that is the problem with it, is just sort of it is quite monotonous. But it can teach you about floodgates and things like that.
yeah,
Add a bit
yeah.
more in. Going on to floodgates, my deck number 2.
Oh god.
Can you guess it? It's Yosenju.
Oh God! Why would no, no?
Yosenju's a decent deck, though. They actually are really competitive. You
It's
can
a
splash
decent
in
deck,
some
but the things it does are completely different to the things any
the
other
whole
deck
spirit monster
does.
thing. No, I get that, but it's an effect, and it has to happen in it. And it also can get you more used to things like if their effects get negated, they get stuck on the field, which is a bit shit. Um,
True.
and I don't know, I just think they're quite. They taught me a lot. They were my first like good competitive deck. Not that they're that competitive, but like, and
Hmm.
I think they taught me a lot about the game. And also, you can splash in pendulum cards. You can main floodgates, which, as a newer player, if you're not actually that good at the game, being able to stop other people doing what they want to do can be pretty
Yeah,
good. So
I
I
suppose.
I like Yosenju, but that you are right, they do play differently to other decks. But I just think the amount of power they have compared to how cheap and how easy to play they are, puts them above Lightsworn and things. They're a
Yeah,
similar
I
kind of
suppose
deck.
it depends whether you're like whether you've got friends who play Yu-Gi-Oh and you can deal with them, in which case you don't need to have that good a deck. Or if
Yeah,
you're going to be like if you're starting playing and you're
online.
going to your
Yeah.
locals,
Mm,
in which case you don't want to be taking something like DDD, which you need to learn and is going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
you're probably going to lose a lot.
And even online, I think Yosenju can compete fairly well. I mean, one of the top-rated guys on DN fairly recently was running Yosenju. So yeah, I think they're pretty good. And my number 1, I don't know if you've ever played with, but you've definitely played against, is Chaos Dragons.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
they
yeah, I
they
can see that.
they topped a regional recently. They're incredibly fun to play just because you're getting out huge ass beat sticks all the time. The main deck's really cheap. The extra can be expensive if you're going to run stuff like Omega, but Omega's not like necessary. It's just a really good card. Um,
Hmm.
and they're just such a fun and powerful deck. And I guess they are kind of like, I think if Lightsworn Rulers were around, they would be top of this list. And
Yeah, I can
Chaos
see that.
Dragons is just a better version of them. They also have a variety of different effects that just revolve around different things. You don't play much back row though, but what they do teach you about is hand traps because they tend to main things like Gauze, Duragado, where you can run effect failure in them because obviously it's a light and like they rely a lot on hand traps because they don't have much back row. So
Yeah, that's
I think they're good.
I'd probably agree most with that choice. Like, I don't, yeah. I mean, obviously the back row thing, you don't run many staples, but yeah, that would be a really fun one for
Yeah,
beginners.
that's true. You don't run that many staples, but I don't know. And there's a Lightsworn engine in there, and I just think it's fucking fun. And also because it's reminiscent of old school Yu-Gi-Oh compared to the other deck, especially if you're coming back into the game as someone who used to play it when they're
Mm.
younger. But then I am a bit biased because that's probably my favorite deck ever. So I.
That's a little bias.
So yeah, do you have any like honorable mentions that you'd add in, or anything you'd change about my list slash things that you would add?
Well, personally, something I played after Lightsworn was Boojins, and
There are
I would say hmm?
this list may as well just be helmet decks. If we just
Yeah, true.
thinking about
But
this, Senju,
that is
Bujin,
suitable for
Lightsworn.
beginners a bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You may get some flack at locals for running some of these decks.
Probably. probably, but you're always going to get a little bit of flack. It's
Yeah,
fine.
there's a new player.
But I'd say Bujins are similar to Geargia, but do have a little bit more variety. You have all the targeting. Like they think about targeting a lot, avoiding destruction, and they still do the searching and the XEs and everything like that.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's a lot protect Yamato. But I guess I don't like that deck, whereas you don't like Geargia.
Mm.
So it's different. Anything else?
Yeah, exactly. Bias, bias, bias.
Yeah.
Heroes
Yeah, oh, yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
should have been in
Yeah, I
there.
totally forgot about heroes. They have the nostalgia factor. They're a really strong deck. They are sort of anti-meta. They counter the others. They run loads of staples.
Budget.
Budget. They're getting less budget now that the structure deck's out of print. But they're still budget. And some of the extra deck
Yeah,
cards are really expensive. If you want to run things like Nova Master, it can be expensive. But you can basically build the deck out of 3 structure decks. Um,
exactly. Which I did at one point, I think.
same. I still have
Mm.
two. I have two different hero builds which are completely built, but in my binder I
How
have.
did you leave that out? How did you forget that?
I don't know. Actually, if you want to build heroes, look back at my previous 2 deck profiles. I think I just have normal heroes and D heroes, both of which are relatively competitive still. Obviously, adjust the list for the current ban list. And they have equal. And the good thing about most of these decks is they're not going to get hit by the ban list. Heroes may do, just because sometimes they like to kill heroes for no reason. But the rest aren't going to get
R.I.P.
hit.
Shadow.
Your favourite deck. They're not a good starting deck though. They're resource well, I mean they're good to play if you want to give yourself a challenge, but you have to manage your resources and shit like that. There's a lot of
They make you
decks.
think.
Yeah, yeah. I guess because they're good, as opposed to like things like Psyframe is a deck where you have to manage your resources, but if you're not necessarily good at it, you can really fuck up and just end up banishing all your drivers, and then you can't do anything. Whereas
I
Shidoji's
think
not
it
going
is
to do that.
important to when you're starting out, play a deck that you can win with.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
something I'd put emphasis on,
I
just
think you can
because.
win with all of these decks. I have success with these decks. DDD I've had some success with. Even my worst one, probably the worst one that we mentioned. So yeah.
Fair, fair. And finally, the another honourable mention goes to the deck our friend the Oracle is Skull Servants.
Oh,
If you want nostalgia,
it's
you
got
want
loads of
what were
common
you gonna say?
cards. I just say it's a great deck. Like you can do really well with that deck. There's loads of
Exactly.
profiles about it. It's kind of some of the cards are hard to get hold of just because they're old, but apart from that, it's a really good deck. I think that the Oracle should do a profile of it soon.
He
Um,
definitely should.
it is your job to convince him, seeing as you live with him.
Ah,
This is
I'll
what
try.
Rip Beast ruined his encouragement for everything Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, it actually did.
It did.
It's a bit sad.
It is.
Don't play Rip Beast.
Basically. Yeah. So should we leave it there? I think that's everything.
Yeah, it's
All
good.
right. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe.